All right, hey everyone. Accumulated Knowledge here with Noah Walker from Team Cardhoarder, playing against a fellow Team Cardhoarder member, Chris Anderson. Today we're going to do Grixis Delver against Death and Taxes, and we're here with another match. So we won the dot roll, so yes, we'd like to go first. All right, so this hand is actually not the greatest. Has a lot of air in it, but it actually has 2 dazes and a wasteland, and we're on the play. So I think against almost any deck, this is a fine hand to keep on play. I'm not really, too excited with it, but I think that it is an okay one to keep, just because we have, so much to stop them from doing stuff. We have 2 dazes and also a lightning bolt. So I think that I'm going to end up keeping this one. Not insanely happy with it, but it could be much worse. So I think keeping it is all right, especially with him on the mulligan to 6 now. I feel a little bit better about this keep. But so I'm actually just going to route the C here instead of the delta, which may seem a little weird, but we're actually kind of fine if he spends his first turn just wastelanding us. So something like that. So I'm fine just playing the underground C here, using it today as something. Go on with our lives, So, yeah, I'm really hoping that we draw some sort of cantrip, like a ponder or brainstorm, or even a threat that we can cast early. So this Gurmag Angler, we'll go to cast it in a couple turns just by casting the daces and the bolt. So we actually did decide to play this wasteland on turn 1 and just kill our C, which may seem pretty bad just because we only have this one other land, but I think it's totally fine here. We drew another Gurmag, which is probably about the worst draw in our deck. But that's all right. Not a whole lot we can do about it. Hopefully we draw a brainstorm so we can shuffle away one of the Gurmags or something like that. That would be really helpful. All right, so he's just jamming Aether Vial. So here, I think that so since we have the 2 Gurmag Anglers, it seems, pretty easy to just fetch up the Underground Sea here. But I think that I'm actually going to fetch up the Volcanic Island, and for a couple of reasons. One, we're not going to cast the Gurmag particularly soon, and we have this bolt that we're going to want to use on a creature. So that's why we want the red source. But also, the deck only plays 2 Underground Seas. So if we fetch up the second Underground Sea, use a daze on it, then play it for our land next turn, and he has a second Wasteland, then we can never cast these Gurmags unless we, fetch for the Trop later, then play a Deathrite and use it for black. So I'm just going to fetch up a Volcanic Island here, even though it means that we can't really cast the Gurmags immediately. But I think that it is worth it to play around him having potentially another Wasteland and, getting us pretty far behind in this game. So yeah, I didn't really need to float the blue, but I wanted to just as, like a little bluff that's possible we could have something. Okay, it sucks that we drew a second Volcanic Island, but I mean, I still think that it was correct to fetch up the Volk before the second C. Just because we actually lose the game if he just has the second Wasteland and we fetch up the C there. So I think this is all right. Port for his land. Thalia. I kind of want to get good use out of this daze. So I might just I'm just going to daze the Thalia. And then I think that we're going to use this Wasteland next turn on the Rashad and Port. And the reason I'm using the Wasteland as opposed to just playing the Volcanic Island is because we can just play the Volk the turn after and then use it to kill any guy if he plays it. And I don't know that he has more lands to cast spells even. So I think that getting as far ahead in a matchup like this as we can is something that's really valuable. All right, Mother Runes is the play, which is pretty great against us, but luckily we have Lightning Bolt that we can use against it. Hopefully we draw a blue spell. So most of the time I would snap off Taxian Probe here, but it's really important that we have a blue spell for a Force Will. So I'm just gonna, play the Volcanic Island, both the Month of Runes, because that's the only time that we can do that. And now we have this force with a blue card that we can pitch also. So feeling all right about this game, so long as we draw some sort of fetch land. Get us in there. Mangara! Man, I haven't seen Mangara in a long time in lists like this. So Mangara is pretty good, especially if he has something like a Caracas. But I almost think that, I don't know, it might not be worth it to counter. Like, there are just some cards that if he plays, we can't really beat, like a Stoneforge Mystic searching for a Batterskull. Like, we can't really beat that. But Mangara is only, like, something that's pretty good. So I think that, honestly, it might just be worth it to let this Mangara resolve. It's only really, really bad for us if he plays Caracas, because then he can start, killing our permanents over and over again. And that is something that we can't, really beat. But just Mangara by itself, it's just really a good 1-for-1. He'll probably end up killing Gurmag Angler with it, which is okay just because we have another one. So here I am gonna fire off this probe for some life because we drew another blue spell. And I just want some information. He only has 2 cards left, so Swords and Caracas. That's pretty much as bad as it gets, the fact that we didn't force of will this Mangara and then he has the Caracas in hand with it. That's really horrible for us. So hopefully we can ponder into a removal spell for it, just because if we don't, then we're going to lose to that combo more than likely. All right, fire off Ponder. Not playing the land first, because if we draw a black source, then we're going to want to cast the Gurmag Angler. But if we draw a removal spell, then we're just going to want to fire it off immediately on this. So this is just kind of a shitty spot to be in. He can pretty easily deal with our Gurmag Anglers. If he's smart, then next turn he'll just Source to Plowshares or Gurmag Angler, use Mangara on our black source, and then bounce it. And then we can't really win from that point. But I think that these cards are too good to shuffle away. So I'm just going to keep them on top. Search for that black source and cast a Gurmag. It really sucks that he has the Caracas along with the Mangara. Makes me wish that we had, countered it last turn, but can't win them all. So the reason that I'm removing lands first from our graveyard is because his deck plays a lot of wasteland effects, Rising Canopy, lands that go to the graveyard, essentially. So I think it's more valuable for us to have instants or sorceries in our yard with the Deathrite Shaman. So that is why I did that. So yeah, first things first, he's firing off the Swords to Plowshares, which is something that I kind of want to force of will, just so that he doesn't feel obligated to use the Mangara on our Underground Sea, actually. But I just don't think that we can really beat Mangara recurring killing our permanents anyway, so we have to counter it when it comes back down. So I'm just going to let the plow resolve on our Gurmag. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. So here I'm just really hoping that he doesn't pick up on the fact that he's already wasted one of our Underground Seas. Because if he does, and if he knows my list, then he will happily just play the Caracas here, use Mangara, targeting Underground Sea, bounce it with Caracas with the trigger on the stack, get rid of our Sea forever, have Mangara in his hand, and then we will be super far behind. We'll need a great series of draws in a row. We'll need a fetch land for a green source and a Deathrite Shaman to ever be able to cast Gurmag Angler again. So if that happens, then we're definitely super far behind this game. But I just don't think there's much we can do about that, having not countered the Mangara. It's possible that we should have. I guess I was playing around, more threats as opposed to him just having a Caracas, which I think the list generally plays 3 Caracas. So, I mean, it's pretty likely that he has one. But there are just so many threats that are we need to counter, or we can't really win. And Megara isn't one of them unless he already has the Crocus. So I think it ended up working out pretty poor for us. But I don't think, I don't think it was wrong necessarily to not counter the Megara. So yeah, it seems like he's tanking for a pretty long time on this turn, deciding, if he wants to use the Mangara to exile land right now. And if red or black is more important. If he knows, he might forget because it's Magic Online. You don't always, look at your opponent's exile, which has an Underground Sea in it. But if he knows that he could cut us off with black mana right now, then I'm sure he would. But he opted for red and didn't bounce it with Caracas. Huh. I think that was just sort of a misclick. Forgot to hold priority while he was using the Mangara, which changes this game drastically because he was just going to use the Crocus, bounce it, cast it again next turn, which we would have had the Force of Will for. But okay, so yeah, I think we got pretty lucky there with a little misclick. But I'm just going to play this land, ponder it up, and the reason that I played the Volcanic Island before is just so that we could cast a Deathrite Shaman if we draw it. Because I think that's the best threat that we could draw here is Deathrite Shaman. And actually, I think that these top three are great. The Wasteland is really good against Caracas just because he has a lot of legendary stuff. The Delver will flip with a Brainstorm. So we're just going to put it back. Wasteland, Brainstorm, then Delver. No, not like Shuffle. So they gave us a threat. We have a counter spell. It flips with a good spell. And we don't even necessarily need to cast it. We can just hard cast Gurmag Angler, keep the Brainstorm in our hand, turn after that, draw the Wasteland, use it on Caracas, and just set us up to be in a pretty commanding position here. Flicker Wisp. Okay, so since he only has one card in hand, I'm just gonna counter the Flicker Wisp with Forceful. I really hope that he didn't catch on to the fact. Okay, yeah. So clearly he didn't catch on to the fact that we had already, used. He'd already killed an Underground Sea, or the fact that it's possible we have 3 Underground Seas in our list, and maybe he just wants to cut us off from red because Lightning Bolt is one of the best cards against his deck. But the fact that he didn't kill the Gurmag didn't kill the Black Source, for multiple turns in a row, just means that this Gurmag is gonna, start taking over the game right now. And luckily we have exactly 6 cards in our graveyard to cast it with. So yeah, it sucks to feel like the only reason we're in a commanding board state right now is because of a misclick. But I guess that's just stuff that happens sometimes, unfortunately. So I actually just want to save the Brainstorm because it's not really doing much if we cast it, without having a fetch land, without having something that we're actively looking for. So I think that saving it is just fine. Another Caracas and a Thalia. All right. I considered for a second, brainstorming in response to the Thalia, but I just don't think it's really worth it. Right here, he has to chump block and bounce the Thalia. But I think that after he does that, then it's okay to brainstorm, just because he doesn't have any cards in hand, and it would be nice to find another fetch land for Volcanic Island. So yeah, so he's killed 2 Volcanic Islands and 1 Underground Sea, so there still is 1 Volcanic Island left in the deck. All right, yep, block, bounce. Yeah, I'm just going to fire off this Brainstorm looking for a land. All right, we did not find one, which is a little unfortunate. Next turn, we have another Brainstorm to look for it, though. And actually, I'm just going to fire off the Gitaxian Probe right now, so I don't have to after he plays Thalia. Mom is pretty great here, but it's only really great if he draws a flyer or something to deal with this Insectile Aberration. So he's just going to block with Athalia again, bounce it. And here I think we have to cast a Rainstorm, because if we find a fetch line for a red source, then he's just dead to the Lightning Bolt. Okay, so we found one. So fortunately, his misclick of not bouncing again with the Caracas doesn't really matter, because we had the Bolt. Finish him off. So yeah, what's generally a pretty unfavorable matchup seems to be going pretty well this game one. I hate to think that it was just because he used the Mangara and didn't hold priority to bounce it with the Caracas, because it's a Magic Online thing. But all right, now we're starting game 2. So the cards that I think are pretty important in a matchup like this are Forked Bolt, just because he plays so many X1s, Ancient Grudge to kill, Aether Vial, and to kill anything that Stoneforge Mystic might get. Dark Blast, just because plays a lot of X1s again, and so I think that these 5 are the best. And the cards that are less good in this matchup are Spell Pierce. It doesn't have exactly so many applications because this deck plays mostly creatures. And Force of Will isn't great. Neither is Daze. On the draw, I think Daze might be a little worse, but both are just pretty poor. Most of our other spells are pretty fine. But actually, I think that Cabal Therapy might be worse than either on the draw. So I'm going to cut the 2 Cabal Therapies, the Spell Pierce, and then I think Daze is slightly worse, so I'm going to cut 2 of those for these 5 right now. So the other card that I'm considering bringing in here is Baleful Strix, just because it trades with all of his guys that aren't Thalia pretty profitably. The downside is that it's pretty bad against Mother of Runes. Just because, block your Sarah Avenger, or block your Flicker Rose Beans, just give it pro blue or pro black. And then we basically, had the Baleful Strix for not very good effect. But honestly, it might be better than Daze in this matchup, especially on the draw. I don't think Daze is gonna, get all that much leverage. So I'm gonna cut the Dazes for Baleful Strix and try this out. The other unfortunate part about Baleful Strix is that it cost a blue and a black to cast, and he's playing a deck, that can pretty easily just kill our lands and make it hard for us to cast spells. But Deathrite Shaman is really good at casting Baleful Strix easily. It's another blue card to pitch to Force of Will. And I just don't want to have Dazes in the late game at all. So I think just keeping in the 4 Force of Wills and the Strixes is okay. So I'm going to submit this. This is an interesting hand. It's not really great against anything, but it has a couple of lands and some cantrips and some wastelands. So depending on whether or not he mulligans, then this hand could be keepable. He actually did mulligan. So I think I'm fine. So I think I'm fine keeping this. All right. Plains Mother of Runes. That's pretty bad for us, actually. Mom is one of the only cards that we can't really interact with once he's played it, and it stops all of our removal spells from doing basically anything. So here I'm just going to fetch up the Volcanic Island first. Start digging with a Ponder. So we've got a Click, a Peasy, and a Deathrite. I actually think that we don't want the second Young Pyromancer, but we do want the Deathrite and the Click. So I'm just going to put Young Pyromancer last, then Click, then Deathrite, and keep these. Just because Deathrite can, help us cast most of our spells. It sucks that there's no interaction in there, really. But there's no interaction that we can use that effectively against Mother of Runes anyways. But I really want to shuffle away that other Young Pyromancer, actually. Even though it's good to have, multiple threats generally, I think that in this game, we won't need it, especially with him stumbling on lands. So we could have, Swords to Plowshares here, which would be pretty good against Deathrite Shaman. But he doesn't even have that. So it seems like he's just stumbling here. Can't really get much ground. Okay, Cavern of Souls is a pretty effective card. Luckily, we have Wasteland to deal with that. And a couple of threats to apply. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic. A pretty annoying one, actually. So I'm going to set stops for his draw step. Because I think we want to cast Vanilla Click after he draws. So Jackson Probe is actually a pretty great draw, just for young Pyromancer reasons. I'm kind of regretting cutting the Cabal therapies in this matchup, but I think generally against a better draw, then they're pretty useless. But I think just because his draw has been pretty poor this game, then it would be good. But I don't think that's a great way to decide where, just because he drew bad, like therapy would be great. But generally, I think it's one of the weaker cards here. All right. So his hand is... Oh, it looks like he asked me if I remembered how to hold priority. But I did not, so unfortunately I couldn't really help him out with that. Yeah, sorry. That was not great. All right, so we've got Wisp, X3, Thalia, Leech, Skull. So I kind of want to take the Batter Skull, but then that gives him a chance to draw a land. And he's so mana screwed right now that I think it's not even really worth it to take anything. So I'm just going to leave him with all that and just start bashing in this Vendilion Click. All right. So I'm just going to start. So actually his hand is pretty bad against flyers right now. So maybe it's better if we play Wasteland to use as a land for young Pyromancer. Cast the Jutaxian Probe, then play Delver, and then set it up with Brainstorm if we really feel obligated to, which it might be worth it at this point in the game just to try to cement our lead. Here we take another look at this hand. We know all the cards, so that's fine. Ooh, Force of Will is an okay draw. Jam the Delver, and the swing in for 3 with the click. And turn off the... All right, so he drew another Mother of Runes, which I think that's fine. All right, I just really want to, cement our lead here. So I'm just gonna fire off a Brainstorm right now. I think it's worth it. All right. Okay, so it turns out we have Ancient Grudge, even if he does draw a land to put into play, the Batter Skull. I'm actually just gonna reveal it to him for the Rutmans. Gotta do what you gotta do. I put the Volcanic Island back as the other card just because I figured I might want to use the Lightning Bolt, but we actually just pretty much have lethal here, or essentially like a 2-turn clock with attack for 6, remove something like the 3 Shaman, puts him at 9, and we can use the Lightning Bolt again to finish him off. We even have a Forcible backup. So I think that this wasn't a great showing of how good Death and Taxes is against Delver. But I mean, it's definitely a winnable matchup for us, but I think that it's pretty unfavorable. But it turns out, he doesn't have very much. Since we know every card in his hand, it's fine to just cast Lightning Bolt here on his face. Swing in for 6 with our flyers and finish him off. I guess he's hoping, maybe we mess up and don't attack with these flyers. So I actually think that those 2 games weren't a great representation of this matchup. In game 1, accidentally misclicked with Caracas on, or didn't even click with Caracas on Mangara. And if he had, then he definitely would have been in much better shape. We would have had to use the Forcible on it. It would have changed the game dynamic a lot. And in this game, he just mulliganed to 6, never got another land until it was way too late. So yeah, that was our second match with Grixis against this Stuff in Texas deck. Ended up going pretty well, but I hope that we just get some better games in the future. All right. Thanks for watching.